chapter 40, verse 1, which we actually did the Rashi for yesterday, but we'll do it again. Yaakov saw that there was food in Egypt. Why do you make yourselves seem as though you have food when nobody else has food? That's how Rashi translates it. We'll read the Rashi. How did Jacob see? Isn't it true that he didn't see? El Shammai, he just heard. He said, behold, I heard that there is food in Egypt. Mao Vayar, why does it say Jacob saw? So Rashi was bothered by the fact that it says Jacob saw. So what did he see? He saw basically through a holy lens. He saw spiritually. That Egypt, that the Egypt still had food. It wasn't an actual prophecy. If it was an actual prophecy, he would have known it was Yosef. So really, all he's knowing here is he sees like some sort of cloudy vision that there's something going on in Egypt, but he doesn't know exactly what it was. So the interesting thing is, the Torah has used the word shever. This is the way you have to read this Rashi. I actually missed this until this footnote is pointed out to me. So I read it that there was still shever, food in Egypt, but the footnote here explains that
what's it was?
I don't know. So until now, the Torah has used the word ochel or for food or bar for grain to refer to the food set aside by Yosef. But here the word shever is introduced in the verse. But the Midrash says that we have to read this word not as shever, meaning food, but as sever, meaning hope. So Yaakov saw he had sever, hope in Egypt. It's I would have missed that. So that's very good that they pointed out to me.
Hope.
So no, the way we read it, if you look at all your translations, they'll probably translate Lama Yeshever Mitzrayim. There's food in Egypt, but Rashi's telling us don't read it as food in Egypt. Read it as Yesh Sever b'Mitzrayim. Sever is a reference to hope. Yaakov didn't realize he was prophetically speaking about the fact that Joseph was there because his prophetic vision was clouded. So he says, Lama Tisra'u. Why do you make yourselves seen? So Rashi says this means Lama taru atzmechem b'fnei b'nei Ishmael u'b'nei Esav sveim ki ba'oz hashah dayin lahem tefua. Why are you showing yourselves as though you have food? Because at that time, nobody else had food. So you shouldn't walk around like you have food if everybody else is struggling. Meaning to say that you should at least act humbly. Yeah, what's the problem, Seth? Yeah. No problem. I mean, it's like pretend you don't have food. If the whole world is struggling, don't start throwing your fancy parties and wasting food, conspicuous consumption. You have to act with humility.
Not rub it in somebody's face.
Yeah, so you also should pretend like you don't have food. V'linireh. But then Rashi says, but to me it seems, Pshuto, Lama Tisra'u, Lama you akol mistakom b'chem, umatmiyim b'chem, she'en atem mevakshim ochal b'terem she'ikal ha'mashav yedchem. He says, the simple explanation is, why does everyone look at you and is shocked that why aren't you asking for food? But before what you have is finished. That's very similar to the first explanation. And then Rashi said to me, I heard from others, Tisra'u was an expression of somebody being lean or thin. Why should you become thin from hunger? And it's similar to the word that he who gives satisfaction will be satisfied. Okay. Verse 2. Vayomer Hinei Shamati Ki shever b'Mitzrayim. And then Yaakov said, behold, I have heard that there are provisions in Egypt. First he saw and now he heard. That's what was bothering Rashi before. B'du shama, go down there, v'shivru lanu misham. Buy us some food from there, v'nichye v'lo namus. Buy us some fruit from there, and then we'll live and not die. Rashi says, go down there, v'lo amar l'chu. He did not say go, he said redu. He said go down. Ramaz, this word redu, very, very, very important word. Very. It's hinting to the fact, l'matayim ve'eser shanim, shenishtabdu l'mitzrayim k'minyan redu. It's hinting to the 210 years that the Jewish people went down to Egypt, corresponding to the numerical value of the word redu. Reish Daled Vav Gematria. So this is, if you ever want to remember how many years were they actually in Egypt, redu. 210, redu. Okay. Next verse. So the brothers of Joseph, 10 of them, went down to buy grain from Egypt. She says, "Vayardu achei Yosef." Of Bnei Yaakov. It doesn't say the sons of Jacob, it says the brothers of Joseph. That's again bothering Rashi. Why does it say the brothers of Joseph and not the sons of Jacob? Melamed shayu mitchartim b'mechirato v'natnu libam v'hitnahegi mo ba'achva v'liftoso b'chol mamon sheyifseku aleihem. So why does it say the brothers of Joseph and not the sons of Jacob? To teach you that they were regretting his sale, and they had all agreed to act with him with love and to redeem him with any money that any price, no price would be too much. They say if we find him, we'll redeem him. That's what Rashi.
That's assuming that he's alive.
Well, they had in mind to go and try and redeem him.
Yeah, but 13 years passed. And
yeah, I know it was a long shot, but this was what they said. They said we're going to find him and we'll redeem him and we'll pay any price. That they were at one with Joseph. They wanted to act like his brothers. They were acting like his brothers. Then the verse says, Asara, 10 of them. Matam Omer. Why does they 10? The next verse says, he didn't send Benjamin, the brother of Joseph. With respect to the brotherhood, they were divided into 10. Meaning to say, they weren't equal, Rashi says, with respect to the feelings, they were divided into 10. There, not everybody was equal, but with respect to buying the grain, there, everybody had the same approach. So they weren't all in agreement. They weren't all in agreement. Okay. Interesting. Okay, next verse. Vet Binyamin Achi Yosef Oshalach Yaakov Esachav Ki Amar Pen Yikraenu Ason. Benjamin, the brother of Joseph, Jacob didn't send him to his brothers because he said, I'm worried lest a disaster befall him. So Rashi says, what does it mean? Pen Yikraenu Ason, lest a disaster. Ubabayit Lo Yikraenu Ason. Why wasn't he worried that at home? You know, like your ladder could fall down upon you. So your ladder could fall down upon you in your own home. What's the problem? Amar Elazar ben Yaakov, Mikan Satan Mikatreg B'Shata Sakana. In a time of danger, Satan will prosecute. That's when the Satan gets going. So if you're traveling, even though the same accident could happen at home, when you're traveling, it's worse. Yeah, the Satan is out. The children of Israel came to buy food amongst those coming, because there was a famine in the land of Canaan. What does it mean amongst those coming? Rashi says, Matminin atzman. They were hiding themselves. Shaloya kirum. They didn't want anybody to recognize them. That Jacob commanded them that they shouldn't all enter into Egypt through one entrance. Because he wanted them, he didn't want the ayin hara to come on them, because they were all very good looking and very strong, and if they all walk together, it could be an ayin hara. He's saying, Shah, going through different things, don't attract too much attention. Okay, that's what he says. Verse 6. Yosef hu shalit. Joseph was the ruler.
So they were thinking like instead of having this totally selfish project.
Here, Jeff, here's a chumash. Yes, Meyer, please keep going.
So I would just a slight point here, that instead of just going down there and then taking care of the gashmius, food, and it's interesting. It says before that they basically do have some food, but they want to look good in front of neighbors. But I say by doing this mitzvah of redeeming him or doing teshuvah, now they're on a mission of mitzvah. Maybe they're going to survive this.
So that's a very good point. Because they were coming for a mitzvah, they were protected because they wanted to redeem.
They want to give this whole thing a definition of a mitzvah.
I never even thought about it that way. Beautiful. That's a beautiful idea. I never thought, because they were on a mitzvah mission, they were more likely to succeed.
Right.
Yeah, very, very nice. Very, very nice.
So the grain is like a secondary.
Yeah, grain almost became secondary. Their real mission was to redeem Joseph.
Spiritual
record. But then they should have told Jacob that they're on a mission, and Benjamin.
No, they never told him. They didn't want to tell him the truth. They wanted to save Joseph. We're in chapter 42, verse 6. The Yosef, now the text comes back. Yosef was shalit al haaretz. Joseph was the ruler over the land. Hu mashpir al kol haaretz. He was the mashpir. He was the provider to the whole land. The brothers of Joseph came, so they bowed down to him towards the ground. Rashi says, they bowed down on their faces. They stretched out their hands and legs. So what we've seen now, that this is in essence starting to see the fulfillment of his dreams. We're starting to see the fulfillment of his dreams. He bowed down on the ground.
This would be where the department store is, or that's name.
Yes, Mashpir, the provider. Yeah, for sure. For sure. This is the provider, for sure. Vayar Yosef Esachav, and Joseph.
Jerry has a question.
Oh, yes, Jerry. Yes, Jerry.
Does this mean that every visitor to Egypt came before Pharaoh? He doesn't have any other kingly duties except greet every newcomer to Egypt who's coming to buy food?
That's an excellent question. It's an excellent question. How did they get an audience with Joseph?
Well, according to the Medrash, the way they're suggesting is that Yosef was the chief. He was the chief financial officer.
Right.
So every day they would bring him a list. These are the people that came in. This is what they're So when he saw the brothers' names, he knew, but the brothers had no idea.
That's exactly right. So the next verse tells us that it could be that the verse is a little bit out of order. The next verse says Joseph saw them. So it could have been that he arranged for them to come before him because he saw them.
He wasn't snooping.
This is the next verse, which is
his job was to see how much grain is moving. That's what a businessman does.
And this is a big order, 10 brothers coming in. Well, look at this next verse. It's one of my favorite. Vayar Yosef Esachev. Joseph saw his brothers. Vayakireim, he recognized them. Vayinaker alehem. And he made himself like a stranger to them. He spoke to them hard. He said, where'd you come from? They said, we came from Canaan to buy grain. Well, that's not the pasuk I was referring to. It's coming up. The next pasuk. But anyway, Rashi says, he made himself like a stranger. Bidvarim, with words, to speak harshly. But now look at the next verse. Joseph recognized his brothers. Hello. Judah?
Yes.
Yeah, good. Let's give Judah a chumash here. Here. Okay. So we're in chapter 42, verse 8. Joseph recognized his brothers, but they did not recognize him. Joseph recognized his brothers, but they did not recognize him. So what does this mean? Rashi says, because he left them with they had beards. That he left them without a beard. Now they found them with a beard. So when the Midrash tells us that Joseph recognized his brothers, when they were given over into his hands, he recognized that they were his brothers. He had mercy on them, but they had not recognized him. So he recognized them. He acted with mercy, but they didn't act with mercy towards him. That's the second approach. The first approach is they didn't recognize him because he had a beard now and he didn't have a beard before. But the real answer, Rashi is obviously correct, but the real answer, I'm reminded of a story that my friend Howard wrote in his book about the Vilna Gaon. The Vilna Gaon came before he became the Rosh Yeshiva in Vilna, or the head of rabbi in Vilna, the posek that everybody turned to. He tried out for his hometown job as a rabbi. And when he tried out for his hometown job, they didn't give it to him. So he said, I don't understand. That was good enough for Vilna. It's a great, it's like Harvard. And now you guys, you're a little shtetl. Why didn't you support me? By the way, so what did he say? So they said to him, in Vilna, they saw you, they said you were the Vilna Gaon. But we saw you, all we saw was little Eliyahu who used to run around our town. Run around the shtetl in your diapers. So we couldn't recognize your greatness. That's what it says. Your own people, it's the most difficult amongst your own people. It's the most difficult amongst your own people to be. You can't be a prophet in your own city. You have to go out in order people recognize you, because they know you before you became great, is the point. By the way, speaking of great, if anybody would like to help out here, we have some great things waiting for us at the door. Great 2 boxes of donuts for Hanukkah. That's Seth's job. He's going to Florida, so we're getting working before. Yeah, we're gonna count, Seth, 24. We don't want to see any missing. Okay, so now, anyway, that's what it means. They never recognized Yosef's greatness. They didn't recognize Yosef's greatness. It's how depressing is that? Like, you don't recognize the greatness of the person who's the closest to you. They don't recognize.
It's a strong leap.
What?
From the little fisher brother they threw in the pit.
Right.
Because
they never recognized his greatness. That was the whole problem. Yeah.
Well, they were afraid to recognize it, because if they recognize his
it
greatness,
means that
they know what's coming.
That's beautiful also.
But that was the thing in Pasuk Vav. It says, that's in Pasuk Vav. It's very important that it says, "Vayivoi achar Yosef vayishtachavu lo apayim arso." Yeah, they bowed down to him. So suddenly Yosef says, "Hey, that dream is really for real." The dream has come, right? That's what one of the defenses of Yosef. He was trying to say that he was manipulating the whole situation. Thank you, Seth. To make sure that his dreams came true, exactly like you're saying. So this is now suddenly realized the whole thing is unfolding exactly as we dreamed it. Exactly right. It's a very, very good point.
Yeah, but the soup today is the winter soup, which is squash and butternut squash and sweet potato made by Kathy Mendelson. I have to text her after. I didn't forget that. Vayizkor Yosef et hachalamot asher chalam lahem, and Joseph remembered the dreams that he had dreamed. This is exactly Meyer's point right now. Joseph remembered the dreams that he had dreamed to them. Vayomer aleim miraglim atem, and he says, "You're spies." He knows that's not true. You've come to see the land's nakedness. What is it?
Why would he do that?
Well, that's why. That's the connection, exactly like you said. Asher chalam lahem, that he dreamed aleihem. He means about them. The adashan is kaimu.
They already did the.
Well, that's what Rashi says. And then
He wanted to, I guess, to humiliate them a little bit.
Rashi says v'yadash is kaimu sharei yishtachavu. He remembered that the dreams have been fulfilled.
Right.
So now I guess right. So according to Rashi, the dreams were already fulfilled.
Right.
Ervas haaretz, the nakedness of the land. Giloy haaretz, the land's exposure. Mehechan hinochel ikavesh. From where will it be easy to conquer it? Kimo es mikora he'ara. He has bared her source in Leviticus.
Well,
Just
like they made up stories about him. Now he's in charge. He can make up stories about them.
Yeah,
You're spies. I'm going to punish you. He can say whatever he wants to them. Just like they did to him. They never
Exactly.
gave him a chance.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So now, thank you. So the pasuk says, verse 10, "Vayomru elav lo Adoni, v'avadecha bo lishbarocho." He said, "No, no." They said to him, "No, my lord, no, my lord, no, my lord." V'avadecha bo lishbarocho. Your servants came just to buy food. Rashi says, "Lo tomar kain." Don't say this. V'avadecha bo lishbarocho. Your servants came to buy food. So what happened next? Kulanu b'nei ish echad nachnu. We're all the sons of one person. Keinim anachnu. We are truthful. Lo hayu avadechem meraglim. Your servants were not spies. Rashi says, "Nitz." There's another theory that I have about why Yosef did this for them. Yosef knew this is going to. You might not like this at all, but I'm just going to share it anyway. Yosef knew that the punishment for mistreating their brother the way he did was so horrible. How can you do that? He could only imagine what punishment was going to befall them when they came up to Shemayim. They were going to be so severely punished. So he said, if I torture them here on this earth, then the punishment in heaven will be taken away. He said, I'll put them through some torture because I'm the only one who could punish them here. Nobody else could do it. And that
Like
way,
the American law that you can't try twice for the
Right.
same.
Double jeopardy. Is that only the law in America, not in Canada?
I don't know. I don't care for that law anyway, but
Okay.
I don't know.
So the verse says, they said, Kuranu b'nei ish echad nachnu nitza b'hem ruach hakodesh. The inspiration flickered inside them. V'chalu imayim she'afu ben avim. They spoke prophetically. They didn't even realize what they were saying, Rashi says. They said, we're all the son of one. Yes, we're all, including Joseph. And then it states, Kainim, truthful. Amitiyim, we are truthful. Kamo kain dibarta, kain b'noslof badovros, o kain badav. Meaning to say, Cain means truth. So, okay, Vayomer Aleim, and he said to them, "Whoa, that's not correct. Ki ervas haaretz batamoros." No, you come to spy out the land. Rashi says, "Shari nechnastem ba'asara sharei ha'ir." You went through the 10 gates of the city. Lama lo nechnastem b'sharei echad. If you were really coming to buy, you would have come through one. Why did you come through 10 gates? You're spying out the property. By the way, how did he know that they came through the 10 gates?
Mhm. From what we said before, that they only had an audience with him because he knew that they were going to eventually come. And so
So he must
he
have
got
been.
a daily report of
He
everybody who
controlled.
came.
He controlled passport control.
Border checkpoints.
Border checkpoints. Yeah, he controlled the border. Okay, so now the verse says, Vayomer, and they said, verse 13, Shnei masar avadecha achim anachnu, Shnei masar avadecha achim anachnu b'nei ish echad be'eretz Canaan, b'nei hakaton es avinu hayom v'achad einenu. And they said there are 12 of us. We are your servants. We're 12 brothers. B'nei ish echad. So now they made a huge mistake. They said we're 12 brothers. B'nei hakatonos avinu hayom v'achad einenu. He said they messed up because they said the youngest one is with our father, but there's another one who's not with us.
That's when the fun begins, when you say that.
Yeah, they messed up. They speak too much. Vayomer Rashi says, Shnei masar avadecha, ubishvil oso echad sheinenu nispazarnu be'ir levaksha. Oh, Rashi says it beautifully. He says, because of the one that's missing, that's why we went through the whole city. We were looking for the one. So we figured we'll go throughout the area to look through the one. And Avi, you can already start with the donut. We got the fresh donuts, Avi. You don't have to wait. So, okay, verse 14. Vayomer aleim Yosef, and Joseph said to them, Hu asher dibarti alechem lemor. This is what I spoke to you, saying, Miraglim aten, your spies. Bezos tibachenu, chei paro im teitzu mizeh, kim bevo achichem akaton hena. So Joseph said to them, this is what I said to you, saying, you're spies. Let's read the Rashi. Hu asher dibarti, adavar asher dibarti, the matter that I said, shatem meraglim, that I said you're spies, to emes v'anachon. Oh wait, oh my gosh, it's after 4:40. It's time to pray. All right, we have to stop. All right, shkoyach to everybody.